Hi everyone, my name is Veronica Quiroga, and we are here today with a good friend of mine and longtime Bronx resident, Patricia Hernandez, who is just going to be talking to us a little about what her experience has been like as both an essential worker and a student.
Hi everyone, my name is Patricia Hernandez. I'm currently a student at John Jay College of Criminal Justice, and I also work for a third-party store of T-Mobile. And I live in the Bronx.
Cool. So, Patricia, can you talk to us a little bit? First, describe or just tell us what part of the Bronx you live in and what your experience has been like working as an essential worker because T-Mobile employees are technically categorized as essential workers.
Yeah. So I live in East Tremont, in the Bronx, and I also work downtown by 29th Street, and I've been commuting to work ever since I've been working. I only took off about 2 weeks once they announced that we would go into quarantine for COVID-19. Within that time, T-Mobile was compensating their employees for the 2 weeks that we were home with the average pay of what we've gotten in the last two paychecks before that. Once those 2 weeks were over, it was pretty much mandatory for us to go to work. You didn't really have an option. I personally really didn't have an option because it was either you go to work or you were gonna get compensated for 10 hours a week of pay um, within the time that you stayed home. And me living at home and also having a mother who doesn't make that much income, as well as living with my sisters, we all help my mother pay rent and pay bills and everything. And at the rate that I get paid and also the amount of hours that they were compensating me for, it was not going to be enough. It was not going to be enough for me to pay my bills, to help my mother, to pretty much continue living comfortably at home. So I really didn't have a choice but to go to work and get paid. They were they were, yeah, giving us an increase in the pay of about 20%, which was, I guess, an initiative for us to go to work. Um, so I guess that was something good that they were doing. But besides that, that was really the only benefit that we were getting for going to work during this time. Um, I commute to work every single day. I take the train, I take public transportation. Um, T-Mobile was not compensating me for the what I had to pay to get to work. So I had to take the train. I had to pay to take the train every single day. Um, I also didn't have that other choice because some other companies were either, providing transportations for their employees, like Uber and things like that. My job was not doing that, isn't doing that. So I had to take the train and pay to get to work every single day. And that's been my experience, taking public transportation every single day.
What would you describe the MTA as? Like, what's the atmosphere like? I personally am also unemployed currently because of COVID, so I have not taken public transportation in I think probably over 60, 65 days now. So what's that like?
um, it's pretty crazy. You really see a lot of people afraid. A lot of everyone is pretty much with their mask. You also see a lot of homeless people on the train. You see them sleeping there on the train stations. They're also not wearing masks because they probably don't have the resources to get that. So you're really in an environment where you feel like you are surrounded by COVID. Like you, at any moment, if you touch a pole or if you lean on a wall or even sitting down on the seats, you don't know who was sitting down on that seat before you or what they had or if they had the virus. You're pretty much in fear the whole time on the train. Like you don't want to sit next to anyone Many times I would rather stand up on the train the whole ride, which is about 45 minutes of a commute. I'd rather stand on the train even though there's seats available because I just don't want to sit that close to anyone. Just for the fear of myself getting it. Even with the protection of the gloves and a mask, you still are living, in fear. It's been rough.
Definitely heard others express similar feelings and just similar anxieties. How would you describe the conditions that you're working with in your store? And what would you say sort of the company is doing to alleviate stress during these times for employees?
So pretty much what they've done is they've placed like kind of mats on the floor that are signifying 6 feet of distance between customers. We're also not allowed to have more than two customers in the store at once. So if there are people waiting, they do have to wait outside of the store before entering, and they do have to wait until the person leaves to come into the store. We've also only had about 3 employees a day working. Majority of the time it's two, but they'll have like one person come in halfway through the shift, another person will leave. Um, we've also been cleaning a lot. There's been a lot of cleaning, but it's mostly, up to the employees to do that. It's not necessarily like the company is providing us with a cleaning company to come clean the store every single day or every week at least. It's pretty much been up to us. In the sense of sanitation, I feel like it's been not that great. It's really been up to us with the youth supplies that we already had before COVID to use that. There's been many times we've had to pay ourselves out of our pockets gloves to buy because the company hasn't provided us with gloves in the store. We've only used up the ones that we already had. After that, my manager himself has bought us gloves. He's bought us masks as well because the company hasn't provided us with masks. I've been personally just using my own because even then he can't find like protective masks. It's been like construction masks, which don't really, help with that with the germs. So it's been also an anxiety working for me because I myself am a germaphobe and I clean already, so just having COVID in the store and knowing that anybody who walks in can be infected, it's like every single time a customer leaves the store, I'm wiping down the Lysol with Lysol, everything, the poles, the handles, every single thing. I've just been wiping it down. So that's another anxiety that I have. So.
Which makes complete sense, especially because you're literally working with other people's personal material, other people's devices, and phones are something that we always have in our hands, right? So it's like you can't be sure who exactly what they touched prior to touching the phone, what they touched prior to coming into the store. So I totally
It's
understand.
been really up to us to take initiative. Having the customers wipe down their phones before they hand it to us. We have like a little table where we have like kind of like a sanitation section where if they need us to touch their phones, they have to take a Lysol wipe and wipe down the phone and then pass it to us. If not, we don't provide services for them in that sense.
Right. And are most customers understanding of this?
So a lot of them are, but I have had customers where they're like, you know, kind of get offended in the sense of me asking them to do that. Because they'll say like, oh, I already wiped down my phone when I left. And like they don't understand cross contamination where anything that you can touch in the street, even the handlebar walking into the store and then you grab your phone, that's already cross contamination that can be passed on to us. So out of, our safety, we ask them to do that. And I've had, for example, a customer who really took offense to this and he left the store because he didn't feel like it was necessary to wipe down his phone. And I didn't feel comfortable touching his phone, so he left the store. It was just, it was really confusing for me because it's all about safety in a sense. It's not really like, we're trying to offend him or saying, that he's carrying COVID. It's just protection. So I've also dealt with um, a lot of white privilege in working in my store. I do work downtown. I work in a residential area where it's mostly people who live in that area, and it's mostly white people that live there. And I feel like um, they it's not really essential what they come into the store for. It's more of like small necessities, like I need a screen protector, or I need a case, or I need, you know, to figure out an app in my phone. Like, in a sense, I already don't feel like we're very essential to the community to even be open to work, much less to do simple tasks like those that don't really need help, that now we're all doing virtual learning in a sense. So a lot of these things can be learned on the internet, not necessarily having to come into a store and asking for those things. And um, we've denied a lot of that help, like putting on screen protectors and stuff. And I've dealt with people who come in and they think that it's a requirement for us to help them do those things, and it's a necessity for them. And if you don't, like, it's like, what are you even doing here? Like, why are you even open if you're not going to do everything that you used to do before? Or if you're not, going to upgrade my phone, I'll just go to another T-Mobile store down the block. Like, some things like that that are just, in a sense, hurtful, because I don't feel like I need to be there. So to have customers who don't even feel sympathy for us having to come in and stand there and do things that we really don't have to be doing in the store. Like, they can call 611 and call customer service and have those questions answered, and then have someone, yell at us or get upset with us because we don't think that it's necessary to do those things for them, just because they already feel entitled to get that help from us. And you say something back to them, you respond in a sense, and it's like, who do you think you are for talking back to me? Like, you deal with a lot. I've dealt with a lot of those customers, even working here, and a lot of the times, even with COVID and like customer service being so busy, there's been times where our system will shut down and we can't provide like an upgrade for a customer, and he threatened to call customer service and report all of us for not wanting to turn in his phone because he only had 4 days left of the lease and he needed to turn in his phone right then and there. Like, and I'm explaining to him what's happening, like the system, I can't do anything. And he's like, yeah, whatever. And he just like walked out. And it's a lot. I deal with it all the time because of the community that I work in, because they're just, super entitled. But having to deal with that now with what's happening in the world, and, not everyone understanding what's happening, the things that are happening that they don't see and that we don't see, you would expect or hope that they would have more sympathy, and they just don't. Like,
Right.
in a sense, it's just more upsetting now.
Right. And I mean, I definitely think that what you're talking about connects to a larger sort of set of issues that have sort of been exposed with COVID-19, definitely. So, I mean, it is frustrating. It's frustrating just to hear you express those things, and I can't imagine just working under the conditions and under the pressure of already having to be there with a whole global pandemic going on, and then on top of everything, having to deal with this sort of entitlement that can be extremely just frustrating.
Yeah.
So, since we're a little bit on the topic, and I know you mentioned it earlier as well, so you mentioned that you are also a John Jay student. So talk to me a little bit about what the experience of sort of navigating both worlds has been as both an essential worker and a student.
So it's definitely been tough, to say the least. It's been it's been tough because I'm not a virtual learner. Like, I'm a visual learner. I like to learn, hands on. I like to see the things that I'm learning in front of me, and to have, the everything just switched to virtual learning, and me myself only taken one online class in my life and having to take every single class online. It's been super tough. And on top of that, I also have to go to work. Um, at first, I was just working 3 days, and now that my company pretty much has gone back to normal in a sense, where, like, now, even if you're not working, you're not gonna get compensated. You're pretty much staying at home for free. You're not earning any kind of income if you're staying home. And in fact, I've, you know, heard that they've even threatened people and offered them a resignation, in a sense, for not coming to work, because they don't have, the sympathy for anybody else who's scared, who's still, maybe at home experiencing someone who's having the virus. And just feeling the force myself of just having to go to work, because it's either I go to work or I lose my job. And then coming home, after working pretty much an 8-hour shift, because those are the shifts that I've been working, um, to having to come home and do homework or join a Zoom meeting for my professors, to get some type of learning in, it's been super tough. I've been, dealing with, finding the balance of what is a priority and what isn't. Pretty much dealing with also a lot of my professors not knowing what to do themselves, being lost. I've had Zoom meetings with my professors where they're, not even really focusing on the curriculum, just explaining the homework or things like that, or really just going over the new assignments and things like that. And it's like, it's been a really like tough situation for me to just balance doing my work, going to work, because now I'm not just working 3 days, I'm working 4 and 5 days. I'm pretty much working my regular time. I'm a full-time employee and a full-time student as well. So it's been super tough balancing for me on both, and just finding, you know, like a deadline for everything, and following, the new assignment structure. It's been really tough.
How would you describe sort of CUNY, but more specifically John Jay's efforts to alleviate stress during these times for students?
Um, Personally, I think they've, really tried their best. They've, even my professors, in a sense, they've knocked, deadlines so that students have more time to do their work, or, don't feel the pressure of having to turn something in while dealing with, COVID-19. Also, CUNY, all of CUNY has, changed their grading structure. So now, once the grades are up, you have the option of either doing like a no credit if you failed the class. So that way, it doesn't affect your GPA. They've also done, pass fail. So if you don't want the letter grade that they're going to provide for you, you have the option of just, putting a pass. So that way that also doesn't affect your GPA, but you don't have to repeat the class. Which I think that's been, really great, because it's me, myself, I'm in a tough situation even with school. So having that option myself has been alleviating, in a sense, to all the stress that I've been, dealing with. So I think they've done, a good job. Just, I feel like this has been a time for them to prepare themselves more for these situations, because, a lot of professors don't have any background history on taking virtual classes, or, teaching online. They don't know how to do it. So I have a professor who's never taught online class before, and it pretty much took her a month to even, get everything aligned so that she can start teaching again. So it's been a time for, I think, everyone to just switch to this virtual world that we're gonna be in now. And really, prepare all the professors for something like this to happen again. God forbid.
So if something like this were to happen, I'm sure you've heard the CDC sort of confirmed a second upcoming wave that'll sort of happen in tandem with flu season. So, and in that case, I am sure that CUNY will make that step to remain online. How do you think that that'll affect you as a student and as a worker, because you're going to continue working?
Um, it's definitely, I've thought about that a lot. Because even next semester is probably gonna be online as well. I've really, debated myself if I even want to, deal with another semester online, because I've been struggling a lot with this. So to know that I would have to, retake classes again, essential classes that, like, for example, I'm taking chemistry and cooking, and that's an all hands-on class. Like, that's, we go into the lab and we're cooking. So switching that to having to do that at home, and switching those assignments, like, it's been really tough. So it's been something that I've been debating, if I, want to go back next semester and do this all over again, because I don't think that this amount of time could prepare anyone really to do it again. It hasn't been something that we were ready for. So maybe next semester I'll be better at it, but I just don't know at this time.
Right, right. I mean, and it's totally understandable where those concerns are sort of stemming from, just unpreparedness and the fact that this virus has essentially caught all of us off guard. And I think that a common theme that I've heard a lot of other students talk about is just the disconnect between professors and students. Professors aren't always aware of students in your situation you're literally on the front lines of this virus and literally risking your life every day. So just a side note, we definitely thank you for that. And although you may not feel like T-Mobile is essential, the fact that you are still going out there every day and risking your life, whether it's for your family or for your own income at this point, it's something to be definitely proud of and applauded. So
Thank you very much.
so then the next thing that I would want to ask you, we touched a little bit on this earlier, is just how you think some of the issues that you're facing connect to larger systemic issues, or maybe issues that are also happening in the Bronx, how you would connect your own personal sort of situation and circumstances to larger circumstances in the Bronx.
Um, I definitely think that this has put our community, to through the ringer, I would say, because a lot of, our communities are poor communities, are communities where the household income is low, and, we're really struggling every single day to provide for our families and provide for ourselves and continue to live in this community. So I think it's been tough for people who don't even have the option to go back to work, aren't getting compensated for their work. Even my sister, she was working for a big company, and at first she was getting compensated, but they didn't know if they were going to open again. So they pretty much told her that her best option was to file for unemployment. And even unemployment itself, there's thousands of people waiting to hear back, waiting weeks, multiple weeks, to hear back, and then after that get paid. So, she herself has gone a few weeks without receiving any payment, and that has put a lot of stress on her, because we each provide, something here in the household for rent, bills. So she's been in a tough situation where she doesn't, she's scared to think that, she's going to miss her part, in paying the bills. And even myself, like I had to really, choose to go to work and choose to bring home possibly a virus in the house where my mother herself, she doesn't have the best immune system. She has health issues as well, and putting her at risk to getting the virus. All because, I have to continue to pay my bills. I have to continue to, help out in the house. I can't not work. I cannot not have an income. I've been working since I was 16, and I've only gone maybe a month without a job just because that's what I had to do for my family, So in our community, it's been super tough. I know people who have, dipped into things like their savings and stuff because they have to continue to pay their bills, or else, thankfully now they've, waived the eviction, if I'm not mistaken, for residents. So that was something great because I know that there's families that I know that are still, struggling and figuring out if they're going to be able to pay rent next month and if they're going to get evicted, So it's definitely been tough. It's put a lot of us in a tough position. And really it's this virus has just really affected, I think, mostly poor communities, which are mostly filled with Black and Latino people. And even our rates of death are way higher than white people, which is crazy to me, So it feels like it was very targeted for us, and the government is not doing very much, I think, to help us. And there should be a lot more done for our communities.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree. So just to reiterate some of the things that you've been talking about and to sort of bring it all together now, what has your experience been like as a Bronxite, specifically in your neighborhood? So you live in the East Tremont neighborhood, right on the Grand Concourse. So talk to us about what it's been like supermarket shopping and just trying to go about daily normal tasks that we usually wouldn't have trouble with.
Yeah. Even the supermarket or the pharmacy in itself, the lines are insane. They're super long. The wait in itself, thankfully the supermarket by my house has done, a great job and has moved very efficiently in, being able to bring in people and take them out and leave, a certain capacity and make sure that you have signs on the floor everywhere that are, 6 feet apart. But even, the pharmacy, the way in itself for my sister was an hour just on the line, just to get her medication that she needs to have every single day. And the wait in itself was almost an hour to then have to wait inside of there and come back. Like, it's been, very tough. Just getting used to having to not being able to get everything that you need right then and there. Having to wait, having to even deal also with, once again, the anxiety of being around people and, people not respecting the mask, rule that they've input for everyone's safety. Yes, it's also been tough, seeing a lot of people even outside in the community, Um, a lot of people in my neighborhood as well are essential workers. So you see a lot of people outside, going to work, getting on the train. The train you would think would be less packed because, there shouldn't be that many people outside, but because there's so many essential workers in my neighborhood as well, the trains are another anxiety once again because they're packed all the time. You know, people walking in the streets, not also respecting, quarantine. It's been tough. It's been a hard situation.
Yeah, the cruel irony of all this, I believe, is just that in working class and sort of lower class communities of color, it's almost impossible to social distance, you know? Like you
Mm-hmm.
said, your sister waiting on a line for an hour in itself is exposing her to the virus, likely more than she would be exposed doing anything else, you know, just off the fact that she's on that line waiting for so long and then taking the train, all that. So thank you so much for speaking about that, because I think it's important for others to know what it's been like in a super working class neighborhood like yours. I also have family that lives sort of on the Grand Concourse and in that neighborhood, and I can also attest to the fact that there have been loads and masses of people outside, especially in the last few days as the weather is sort of getting warmer. So, what if you could sort of send a message out to the community? What would you say? What do you think that other Bronxites, or perhaps other people will watch this video should know um, about anything like a message?
Well, first, I want to thank all of the essential workers in my community because it's really eye opening. The fact that, Black and Brown communities have the highest death rates, but we're also the biggest working class. And this is where you see most of the essential workers going to work or having to go to work, even though, it wasn't necessary for them because they have to continue to provide for their families. And in the neighborhood that I work in, which is predominantly white, you don't see that many people outside working because they work for bigger corporations or they make a higher income. So they're getting provided food pay at home, and they're staying home because of those reasons mostly. But I would definitely suggest, if it's not necessary for you to go outside, don't do it. Try to keep, even at home, if one person could just go out and do the essential, grocery shopping or anything like that. Keep it at a minimum so that way, you keep the rate lower in our communities of people affected by COVID-19. Um, I know that the weather is getting better and it's May and we want to be outside and we want to, continue or try to live normal lives, but the best thing to do is just stay home right now. Um, Let this time, be a time to spend time with your families, to fix your homes or work on yourself. Let this be a time of relaxation. And let this be a time for us to just continue to fight COVID-19 with quarantine. And yeah, try to keep home. We were only gonna extend the time that we're home if we continue to go outside.
Thank you so much for that message, Patricia. So just before I let you go, thank you so much again for sharing some of your time with us and some of your insight. It's extremely, I cannot emphasize how important it is for others, not only now but in the future, for others to be able to sort of go back to these videos and attach real voices, real faces, and stories to the despairing and sort of whispered facts that we're seeing. So, just before I let you go, is there any last words, sort of remarks, anything you would like to say or speak on?
I would like to thank you very much for putting this project together. I think it's a great and amazing thing that you're doing here. I think that it is very important for everyone or anyone to see this and to understand that, there are people struggling with this and there are people trying to push through and, dealing with these hard times and, feeling defeated or feeling, in a very tough situation. And I think that it's very important for us to, put this in record and, learn from this, learn from COVID-19 and how we are, dealing with it, because I feel like we were very unprepared for what came to us. And hopefully it does not happen again. Hopefully we can fight this and get through it, and stay strong.
Thanks so much, Patricia.
No problem. Bye.
And thank you on behalf of the Bronx African American History Project as well.